Hello and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget on this beautiful Tuesday evening. It is Halloween night, October 31st, year of our Lord 2023. Let me be the first or the last, whatever, to wish you a happy Halloween, safe out there. Be safe out there to all my parents, parental listeners, kid listeners who might be trick-or-treating. Be safe out there, but have a good time. Halloween is a fun holiday for everyone. So happy Halloween. But let's go ahead and look into the show. Before we get into that, just a little bit of news here. Been off for the last couple of weeks from the podcast. Been traveling. Was at the When We Were Young concert 2 weekends ago in Vegas, and then last weekend was kind of a couple Halloween parties. So been traveling a little bit, but back. Gonna be in town for a while now, so the podcast will return on a weekly basis like I was doing before. Big news, ton of things coming heading into November. Football season's in full swing. We got the World Series going on. Tons of things to talk about. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So as I mentioned, football season's in full swing, and we just had about 20 minutes ago the first drop of the college football playoff rankings, the college football playoff top 25. So that'll be my first topic of the day. My first one is going to be my reaction to the college football top 25 rankings, more to the top 10 rankings than top 6. The first 4 are the playoff 4, and then the first 2 out. I'm going to mainly react to that. I'm not going to go over the entire top 25, just going to go over the top 10. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the college football playoff top 10, and we're going to go ahead and compare it and do a little bit compare and contrast to my top 10. So I did my own top 10 teams. I think of the top 10 teams in the country based on resume, eye test, a bunch of different things. So we'll go ahead and compare the college football playoff top 10 to my top 10. That'll be my first topic of the show. Second topic, we're going to move to the NFL, and this was a game that happened on this past weekend. Two teams kind of heading in opposite directions. Are the Cincinnati Bengals back after their huge win on the road at the San Francisco 49ers? And then on the flip side, the 49ers have lost 3 games in a row. Is it time to panic? Is it time to make some changes? We'll get into both those teams there and kind of give you just kind of a pulse of what I think those two teams look like right now. Topic 3 of the day, we're going to move to baseball and give you a World Series update. Game 4 is going to be going off here in about 15 to 20 minutes. Game 3 was last night. Rangers took a 2-1 lead. We'll go into some of the ins and outs of not exactly that game, but of the series. There was some injury news that dropped not too long ago either. So lots of things to talk about in the World Series. That'll be my third topic of the day. And then we will finish off the show, as I always do during football season, with my Week 9 NFL picks and my Week 10 college football picks. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So as I mentioned, first topic of the day is going to be my reaction to the college football playoff rankings. And then I'm going to do a little bit of comparison to the top 10 teams that I think are in the country. So let's go ahead and go from 1 to 10 of the college football playoff rankings. And number 1 is Ohio State. Number 2, they have Georgia. Number 3, Michigan. Number 4, Florida State. Now, if the season were to end today, obviously it doesn't. That would be your playoff. The next 2 out is number 5, Washington, and then number 6, Oregon. Then after that, we have number 7, Texas, number 8, Alabama, number 9, Oklahoma, and number 10, Ole Miss. Just a little reaction there. I wasn't shocked that they put Ohio State at number 1 just based off their resume. The win on the road at Notre Dame looks better as Notre Dame has started to play better these last couple of weeks. The win at home against Penn State still looks really good. Now, that win may start to not look as good as it has. I think Penn State's in for a dogfight this weekend in Maryland, and then they also have Michigan that comes into Penn State next week. So Penn State starts to lose. I don't really like their offense. Drew Aller hasn't looked like the quarterback we thought he was going to be going into the season. That win for Ohio State may start to falter, but it's all on the table for Ohio State. You win, obviously win the games before, but you win at the end of the season against Michigan, and then whoever you get from the Big Ten West, you win in the Big Ten championship, you're in the playoff. Done. You're in the playoff. So, like I said, wasn't shocked that they had Ohio State at number 1 based on the resume. You can make a strong case that they have the best resume, and I do believe they have the best resume. I don't believe they're the best team right now from what I've seen, but they do have the best resume so far of those top tier teams. After that, rankings were pretty similar to me. I had Georgia, so no big reaction. Washington at 5. I thought Washington was the weakest of those 5 undefeated teams up there, so that I don't mind. Washington at 5. 6, Oregon as the number one one-loss team. I thought was a good decision as well, because Oregon has maybe the best looking win on the road. What they did last week at Utah. Utah hasn't lost a home game with fans in the stands in like 28 games or 27 games or something like that. So to go in there and absolutely just push around that Utah team, hats off to Oregon. They looked like one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country last week. So I like them being the number one-loss team and number 6. The Texas-Oklahoma debate, I thought about that as well. I know Oklahoma beat Texas in the Red River a couple weeks ago in the Cotton Bowl, but Oklahoma, you lose last week to Kansas. It's a common opponent. I know it was on the road, but Texas handled their business a couple weeks ago against Kansas, no problem. And Oklahoma could have lost their last 2 games. They could have lost 2 weeks ago to UCF, so Oklahoma has been shaky. They get a tough game on the road in Bedlam this week in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. So they could lose again. They've looked shaky. Their defense, which looked good early in the season, has kind of started to show a little bit of chinks in the armor there. So don't really know what to make of Oklahoma at this point. I think Texas is the better overall team, and clearly the College Football Playoff Committee thinks so as well. So not a huge reaction to the top 10 in the College Football Playoff rankings there. Like I said, wasn't shocked to see Ohio State there. Don't think they're the best team in the country, but I can understand the resume argument. Going to go ahead and compare it to my top 10. My top 10 goes, I have Georgia, number 1. I have Michigan, number 2. Ohio State is number 3. Florida State's number 4. Washington's number 5. And then I have Oregon, number 6. Texas, number 7. Oklahoma, number 8. Alabama, number 9. And then Ole Miss to round at the top 10 at 10. The reason I have a little bit different, yes, I understand the resume for Ohio State, but Georgia has kind of been the number 1 team all year. Whenever they've had to get up for a big game, they have, whether it was Kentucky at home about 3 weeks ago, they got up and just hammered Kentucky. And then on the road, this were a neutral site this week in the game against Florida. They absolutely hammered Florida as well without their best player, Brock Bowers. So that was a big question mark. Could they survive? Could that offense and Carson Beck survive without Brock Bowers? I thought they answered that question pretty easily, and it was a pretty glaring answer that they had for that question as well. So that's why I have Georgia as number 1. Now, Georgia and Michigan, you can make the argument, and I've certainly have, and I've heard tons of arguments, that out of these top 10 teams, and certainly the top 5, they've had the weakest schedules. And that is 100% accurate. That is 100% accurate. And that's why a lot of people have Michigan as not a number 1 or 2 team. But what has Michigan done with their easy schedule? They've done exactly what they should have done. They have pounded every single team they've played. They've won in dominant fashion. J.J. McCarthy hasn't played a bunch of snaps in the fourth quarter in some of these games. They've done exactly what they're supposed to do against inferior opponents. Now their schedule gets a little bit tougher. They go on the road next week to Penn State, and then, of course, the big game at the end of the season against Ohio State at home. That's going to be huge, and does all these sign stealing and all just that controversy swirling around Michigan, does that affect the program at all? We'll see. It could. I don't know how it can. I mean, it seems to be story after story, day after day. There's a new story. Today, there was a sighting supposedly of Connor Stallions on the sideline at a Michigan State Central Michigan game. Don't know. This story has taken off, and every day there's a new wrinkle. So it'd be really hard for it not to get in the heads of the Michigan team. This is going to come down to their mental toughness because, in my opinion, they would probably be my favorite to win the national title right now just because I think they're the most complete team. So if they can just block out the noise and play the way they've been playing, they could be holding up a trophy at the end of the year. And I'm not talking about a Big Ten trophy. I'm talking about that College Football Playoff National Championship trophy is what could could be on the line for a team like Michigan. They just need to stay the course, block out the noise, keep doing what you're doing, and you could be, like I said, a national champion at the end of the year. So, I mean, after the top three, it's pretty much similar for me as the college football playoff rankings. I had Oklahoma above Alabama. Only reason I had that, I think Oklahoma's best win over Texas, a team that beat Alabama at home. That was the difference for me between putting Oklahoma above Alabama. And I'm still not sold on Jalen Milroe and that Alabama offense. So that's why I had Oklahoma above them. I love that they had Ole Miss at number 10. A lot of people thought, and I thought it was going to be Penn State in that rankings, but I'm not a fan of Penn State right now. I think they're very limited on offense. I think they could lose 2 more games. They could definitely lose this weekend to Maryland, and they definitely obviously could lose next weekend at home to Michigan. So not a huge reaction. I think the College Football Playoff Committee did a pretty darn good job. They stayed kind of true to who they are with the whole resume based. They didn't make a huge – I think they made the right decisions with the head-to-head matchups. You have Washington over Oregon, Texas over Oklahoma. Even Oklahoma beat them. Most people would take Texas on a neutral site today. So not a huge reaction. I think they did a good job there. With all that being said, let's go ahead and move on to my second topic. Second topic is going to go to the NFL, and we're going to talk about 2 teams that played each other this past weekend, as the Bengals and the 49ers, and 2 teams heading in opposite directions. We'll go ahead and start with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have won 4 games in a row, and going into San Francisco and beating San Francisco by 14 points was a huge victory for Cincinnati. So they look like they're really coming around. Burrow looked unbelievable against the 49ers on Sunday. He was 28 of 32 for, I think, 280-plus passing yards, 3 touchdowns. But the key for Burrow this whole year has been that calf injury. And he looked the most mobile and the most healthy that he's looked all year in this game. He was moving around. He was breaking tackles. He actually rushed for, I think, over 50 yards in the game as well. Moved around, looked like the Joe Burrow that we've come to know, the second best quarterback in the league right now. So this Cincinnati Bengals team is really starting to take off. Now their schedule is really tough. They have the Bills at home this week. They still obviously have to play the Ravens, the Browns in the division. They play the Chiefs later in the season, but I really like the direction of this Bengals team. And I like what they were able to do this weekend against San Francisco. You got the run game going. They rushed for over 100 yards this weekend against a very stout defense in the San Francisco 49ers. And you look at their defense where they have those 2 kind of bookends there with their defensive linemen. Why am I blanking on their names? But yeah, they have those kind of 2 bookends there. Their defensive ends, they can get after the quarterback a lot. They're top 10 in sacks on the year. They're second in turnovers forced, which is huge. So I really like this Bengals team. This is a team that kind of sleepwalks in September. But if you don't forget, obviously, as you can see with my hat and with the flag behind me, the New England Patriots with Tom Brady, they used to do that all the time. They'd be like 2-2 in September, and people would be like, "Oh, the sky is falling. What's going on in New England?" Then boom, they'd rip off 10, 12 wins in a row, and then noise was gone. It was quiet. It was nowhere to be found. So that seems to be what this Bengals team has done these last couple of years. The injuries, the Burrow have not helped. This year was the calf injury. Last year he had the, I think it was the, I want to say it was the spleen, some sort of surgery where he missed all of training camp and preseason. So he was out all of last offseason as well. So he had to come back rusty. So that doesn't help, and that's kind of why the Bengals have been kind of sleepwalking in September. But last year they ripped off, I think, 10, 12 wins in a row. They've already ripped off 4 wins in a row. I really like them this weekend against the Bills. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But I like this team. I think they're a team that is poised to make a run right now, and they're a dangerous team because in the AFC, there's teams with flaws. The Chiefs don't look that great on offense. Do the Dolphins play enough defense? Can Lamar Jackson stay healthy for the Baltimore Ravens? Tons of question marks. This conference can be had by the Cincinnati Bengals, and they could be a team that could definitely make a deep run and get back to the Super Bowl like they did 2 years ago. On the flip side, let's go ahead and move to the San Francisco 49ers. And San Francisco has lost 3 games in a row, and in all 3 of those games, they only scored 17 points. I mean, they were putting it on people before that. They were 5-0. They just come off, what was it, 42-10 victory over the Dallas Cowboys at home. So they were humming at that time. What's happened in these last 3 games? Turnovers. Brock Purdy has 6 turnovers, interceptions, and fumbles in the last 3 games. That's huge. They've lost every single turnover battle in those 3 games. A lot of times when you look at a box score and you look at the game, even if you haven't watched that game, all you have to do is, okay, who won the turnover battle? 9 times out of 10, the team that won the turnover battle usually wins the game. And that's kind of been the big issue for the San Francisco 49ers in these last 3 games. Can they kind of right that ship and get back on course? It's going to start with Brock Purdy, because we all know the roster. We all know, I mean, you got McCaffrey, you got Kittle. I know Debo's been out, and Trent Williams has been out, and that's been huge. And that's kind of been a big issue for this offensive unit for the San Francisco 49ers, because with Trent Williams out, the running game has not been as good. They're averaging less than 100 yards per game in the last 3 games as well. When before with McCaffrey running and they get Elijah Mitchell in there, get Debo a couple of rushes, they were averaging well over 100 yards per game. But now that started to slow down with their best offensive tackle out, the best offensive tackle in the league out, without Debo Samuel there, who's a really good blocking wide receiver. So when they get those guys back, yes, it's going to get better. But it's not even just the offense. The defense has not been great either. The defense has let teams like the Browns with P.J. Walker score on them. Now, you give up points to Joe Burrow and the Bengals when they're playing like this. Okay, that's fine. But you give up points to Kirk Cousins in prime time, and we all know about prime time Kirk, even though I think Kirk's getting better and I think he's played better, although it's terrible about that injury, the Achilles injury, especially at his age. It's going to be tough to return from, but prayers to him and his family that he can return. But either way, you give up that many points, this defense has to get better. It has to get more pass rush. Nick Bosa is sitting on the season with 2.5 sacks on the season. That can't be the case. They need to get more disruption. Now, they did make a trade today for Chase Young to put him on the opposite side of Nick Bosa, and then you have Armstead and guys like that on the middle. So the defensive front's going to be stout. You still obviously have Fred Warner, Talanoa Ufunga on the at safety. You still have a ton of talent on this defense. They can get better. I think they go to Jacksonville next week, so that won't be an easy game. But either way, this is a team. They're at a crossroads right now. You were dominating all year. Brock Purdy looked like one of the 10 to 15 best quarterbacks in the league. It was a little bit of a wake-up call. It's not that easy. This league is not that easy. You can't just plug in any quarterback. Brock Purdy has to get better. He has to make better decisions. He has to get rid of the ball and not take sacks and not fumble as much. So they're going to have to, right the ship a little bit, get back. They have a bye week, so get back on track, get some of your guys back, focus back on the season. This is still a team that can make a Super Bowl. This is still a team that can win the Super Bowl from the NFC. So all the goals and everything that this team wants to accomplish are still in front of them. The season is not over, and I know that they're not panicking right now, and I think the panic meter would be at like a 5 out of 10 if I was in San Francisco, but there are issues. You're not invincible. People can beat you and have beat you. Take this time with the bye week, get back on track, and I think they'll be just fine. But like I said, panic meter about a 5. Brock Purdy needs to stop making mistakes. They need to get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback on defense, and they will be just fine. Moving on to our third topic of the day, and we're going to move over to the Major League Baseball, and we have the World Series pretty much going on. I think the game's going to start in about 5 minutes, Game 4. Game 3 was last night, and the Rangers went up 2-1 in the series, beating the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1 in that game. Max Scherzer started the game for the Texas Rangers, but I think went out in the second inning with an injury. He is out for the remainder of the World Series, so he will not be an option either from the bullpen or to start for the Texas Rangers. He has not been good for them since he's came there. And his last 3 postseason starts, I think he's got like a 9.2 ERA or something like that. So he has not been the Max Scherzer that we come to know for decades at this point, especially in the playoffs like he did with the Nationals back in 2019. He's not that Max Scherzer, so That's an injury. That's not something that's going to crush the Texas Rangers, but what could really hurt the Texas Rangers is another injury, and that is to Adolis Garcia. Now, Adolis Garcia has been the best player in this playoff so far. He was the ALCS MVP. Just absolutely destroyed the Astros with multiple home runs in big spots. He had a home run. He had the walk-off home run in Game 1 of the World Series in this series. So that's a big blow. Now, Corey Seager has been hot as hell as well, but still, that's a big blow in your lineup, Adolis Garcia, not just because of what he's been doing and the production he's had, but it's someone you can rely on. And it was a spark plug for this team because he'd come up and get a home run or get a big hit. He's a fiery guy. That spark plug in your offense and just on your team and in the clubhouse is not in the game. That's a big blow. And this Arizona Diamondbacks team, they're old school. They're gritty. They like to get guys on base, hit them over, manufacture runs. They even bunt, which is like an outdated thing in baseball with analytics and everything. They even bunt. They kind of remind me a little bit of the 2015 Kansas City Royals, where they play that old school baseball. They manufacture runs. They have great bullpen. They have good starting pitching. This Arizona Diamondbacks is a feisty team. So can that injury to Adolis Garcia be the difference in this series and be the difference for Arizona to get back and tie this series up? Now, it's not going to be easy, even though it's in Arizona. You think you have an advantage, but the Texas Rangers are 9-0 on the road in the playoffs. 9-0. That is just staggering. They won all 4 games of the ALCS in Houston. So this is a team that is not afraid to be on the road. They're not afraid of the crowd noise. They're not bothered by it. They actually thrive off of it, if anything. So I think this series has a chance to go the distance. I think these two teams are evenly matched. They're two teams built in very different ways. Obviously, the Rangers are more about power, and they do have a kind of a bigger name rotation, where if you look at the Diamondbacks, it's more, like I said, small ball, manufacturing runs, good bullpen, solid starting pitching. So I think this is a series that can go the distance. I still like the Diamondbacks in this series to win in either 6 or 7. I would probably say 7. But at this point, the Diamondbacks have a must-win tonight. You cannot go down 3-1, go back to, or you can't go down 3-1 in the World Series. You just can't. So this, to me, is a must-win for the Diamondbacks tonight. They have to win. You do not want to go down 3-1 in this series. All right, let's go ahead and go to our final topic of the show, and that is going to be my Week 9 NFL picks and my Week 10 college football picks. We're starting the NFL, and we'll start with the game in Germany, which is actually probably going to be the game of the day, and that is the Miami Dolphins versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Just watching this Chiefs team, I know they just lost this past weekend in Denver for the first time in like 8 years. Outside of Travis Kelce, and obviously Patrick Mahomes, who scares you on this offense? They have no reliable receiving threat outside of Travis Kelce. Pacheco is off and on from the backfield. The only thing that they've been able to kind of hang their hat on as a team is their defense. But when you play the Miami Dolphins, you're still going to have to just score. This Miami Dolphins team, the firepower is just unbelievable. Whether it's Hill or it's Waddle or it's Mostert or it's Ahmed or whoever it might be, they just have firepower and speed all over the field. They're going to get their points. And can Kansas City kind of, keep up with this Miami offense? Miami's defense has gotten healthier with Jalen Ramsey, who had a pick last week, almost a pick 6. So the defense has been playing better. The offense is elite. I think Miami potentially wins this game, but definitely covers. So give me Miami plus 2.5 in this game. Then we have a sneaky good game, and this is going to be in Baltimore, and this is Seattle at Baltimore, and Baltimore is currently a 5.5-point favorite in this game. Baltimore, to me, they're one of the top 5 teams in the league. They didn't play great last week, but they got a victory against a very inferior Arizona Cardinals team. So this is kind of an interesting game for me. Seahawks lost last week at home to the Browns. Different team, different style in the with the Baltimore Ravens. I know it's a cross-country travel, but for me, I just think Geno Smith and this offense for the Seattle Seahawks, they're running the ball with both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They still have the weapons on the outside like Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba is getting more involved in the offense as well. I just have a feeling that Seattle keeps this close, so I like Seattle plus 5.5 in this game. And then we have the Cowboys at the Eagles, and the Eagles are currently a 3-point favorite in this game. The Eagles are 6-1, but does anybody really think that they're the best team in the league? They have the best record in the league, but does anybody really think they're the best team in the league right now? The eye test just doesn't show it. To me, I know that they struggle with the Commanders with Washington, and they struggled last weekend again in Washington. But their offense, it sputters a lot. The run game is not nearly as good as it used to be, as it was last year. A.J. Brown's an absolute beast and probably should be in the MVP conversation. He's going to be tough to stop. But this Cowboys team is playing well also, and this is the division game. These two teams know each other well, so you're not going to see a blowout most likely. It's going to be a close game. And for that reason, I think the Eagles may win at home, but I think it's going to be close. So give me the Cowboys +3 in this game. And then we have another great game, and that is the Bills at the Bengals, and the Bengals are currently a 3-point favorite in this game. The Bills, to me, are just like I've said before on other shows, way too much Jekyll and Hyde. There's games where they look like the best team in the league, and then there's games where they look like they're maybe the 20th best team in the league. So, and Josh Allen's always due for just one crazy, terrible throw that usually ends up in an interception. Their run game is still inconsistent. Their defense is still pretty stout, but you can move the ball on them. I mean, Mac Jones and the Patriots moved the ball on them at will a couple weeks ago. And when I look at this Bengals team, I just feel like they're really kind of firing on all cylinders at the right time. Joe Burrow is playing really well, and the Bengals have had success going back to the divisional round game last year against the Bills, against this Bills team. I just think the Bengals are playing too well right now, and I just can't trust the Bills overall. So give me the Bengals -3 to win and cover in this game. Then my final pick of the NFL is going to be the Chargers at the Jets, and I think this is the Sunday night game, and the Chargers are actually a 3-point favorite. Cross-country travel, obviously Sunday night game. I'm going to roll with the Chargers to win and cover, so give me the Chargers -3. The reason why is the Jets are getting random wins where they're generating like very little to no offense. Last week they beat the Giants, and that was just one of the ugliest games you'll ever see. And I was watching the red zone, and it would come up randomly, and it was just an ugly game. Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Tommy DeVito had to go in for the Giants, and then they were running Wildcat with Saquon Barkley. Zach Wilson, to his credit, led the Jets down the field on a game-tying field goal drive, and then led them again on a game-winning field goal drive in overtime. So I'll give him credit for that, but he was not good all game for most of the game at least. I just don't trust this Jets team. I think they'll keep it close-ish, but I still think the Chargers maybe found something this past week. I know they were playing the Bears, but maybe they found some chemistry, some continuity. I think they can go into New York and still win this game, so give me the Chargers to win and cover -3. They're the better overall team. This Jets team, I don't know how many games you can win where you just have like very little to no offense. And then we'll go ahead and move on to college football, my Week 10 college football picks. We'll start with the big noon kickoff game at 10 a.m. here in the Mountain Time Zone, and that is going to be number 25, Kansas State, and number 7, Texas. And Texas is currently a 4-point favorite in this game. Now, Kansas State's they've gotten back on track. They've played really well these last couple of weeks. Still a backup. Malik Murphy will be the quarterback for Texas instead of Quinn Ewers. He still won't be back for a couple more weeks. I still like Texas in this spot. Texas is playing really, really good defense. They get after the quarterback. Kansas State is using like a 2-quarterback system, so don't know if I love that. It's worked for them, but not against this kind of competition like Texas will give them. So I like Texas in this game. I think Kansas State will keep it close, but Texas still pulls away at the end. So give me Texas -4 in this game. And then we have number 14, Missouri, at number 1, Georgia. And Georgia is currently a 16-point favorite in this game. Georgia, I hate picking against them in these spots, at least against the spread in these spots, but Missouri just looks like a good team to me. They're getting good quarterback play. Luther Burden, their wide receiver, is one of the best wide receivers in the entire country. They're running the ball well. Their defense is playing better, even though they got just gashed by LSU a couple weeks ago. But everybody's gotten gashed by LSU outside of Florida State. So I don't know. I think Missouri just finds a way to keep this closer to, than the experts think. So give me Missouri plus 16 to at least cover. Georgia wins outright, but I think Missouri can cover in this game. And then we have number 13, LSU, at number 8, Alabama. And Alabama is a 3-point favorite in this game. I mean, to me, I don't know if Alabama has enough offense. Because at the end of the day, LSU is going to score. Jaden Daniels is one of the best players in the country. He is on the short list of Heisman favorites right now. Malik Neighbors is one of the best wide receivers in the country. This LSU offense is going to score. They're going to move the ball. I don't care who they're playing. They're going to move the ball. Alabama hasn't been a team that really has been able to get pressure on the quarterback this year, so Daniels is going to have time to kind of pick that defense apart. And I just don't know if Jalen Milroe and Alabama can go toe-to-toe with this LSU offense. So I like LSU to cover, so give me LSU plus 3. And I actually like LSU money line. I think they go into Tuscaloosa and get a win. And then we'll go to Bedlam, potentially the last Bedlam ever, and that is number 10 Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma is currently a 6-point favorite in this game. Oklahoma State has quietly turned their season around after losing to South Alabama at home and being embarrassed. They've ran the ball for over 250 yards these last 2 weeks. Ollie, their running back, should be on the short list for Heisman's as well. He's been absolutely unbelievable. And Oklahoma showed you last week against Kansas and the week before against UCF that their defense can be ran on and can be scored on. So I think Oklahoma State slows down this game, keeps Oklahoma's offense off the field, runs the ball, and does what they do, and I think they can cover. So give me Oklahoma State plus 6. And, I mean, I'm not going to take the money line, but I think they have a chance to win this game as well. And I know they're going to be hungry for a win, seeing as that they believe that it's Oklahoma's fault that this Bedlam rivalry is over. And let's go ahead and finish out these picks here with my 5th and final pick, and we're going to go to the SEC, and that is going to be Texas A&M at number 10, Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is currently a 3-point favorite in this game. I just like Ole Miss. Texas A&M, I just don't trust. I don't trust what they do there. They beat South Carolina last week, but South Carolina is not a good team, so I don't know how good that victory really is. And Ole Miss is just, they're firing on all cylinders on offense. They're running the ball really well now with Quinshon Judkins. Jackson Dart and those receivers are throwing the ball well. Their defense still can be scored on, so Texas A&M will probably still get 20 to 25 points. But I think Ole Miss gets about 30 to 35, maybe even 40 points and wins this game. So give me Ole Miss, not just the win, but cover. Ole Miss minus 3 in this game. All right, so that has been my show for today. Thank you for watching and listening. Of course, you can always find this show, if you prefer the audio version, on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and places like that. Or if you prefer the video version, please go and watch it on YouTube and like and subscribe to the show, whether you watch or listen, like and subscribe to the show. And leave a comment if you'd like. I don't mind constructive criticism. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.